Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Brotherly Love in the District. Going into playoff time now. Tristan here, along with Jacob. Want to go ahead and tell them what we're going to get into?
Yeah, so this week we're going to be talking more about the playoffs than we are our team's previous matchups, as they don't really mean much. Into hockey, the All-Star teams were just announced, and baseball still in the lockout, so we will not be talking about that. But yeah, let's get right into it.
Yeah, so we'll still go over last week's games a little bit, but won't go into depth as we usually do. Eagles lost to the Cowboys 51-26. I mean, there was nothing there. It was the Eagles didn't even play their starters. And I'm surprised the Eagles put up 26 points. I think that goes to say something about the Cowboys defense more than anything. Granted, they didn't have Trayvon Diggs or Micah Parsons out there, but I mean, Randy Gregory, DeMarcus Lawrence, Van Der Esch, they were all still out there. So, I mean, they still had their starters out. And they kept what surprised me the most was the fact that the Cowboys kept their starters out for 3/4 of the game. They didn't put up their backups in until the fourth quarter. Now, why they were scared of the Eagles backup team that much, who knows? But I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, they lose 51-26. Didn't really mean much. Eagles had already locked in a playoff spot at that point, and there was nothing else to do. So it didn't really mean much. And Washington beat the Giants
22-7. I mean, yeah, it's the Giants. They're a bad team. And this game, it showed me that we really do need a quarterback. Heineke wasn't bad, but he really wasn't that great. He was 9 for 18 with 120 yards. Yeah, we need a quarterback. Heineke, he's a good backup and a good guy you can go to in a pinch, but he's not the answer to our team's problems.
One other thing about the Eagles game is they brought up Jason Huntley from the practice squad, and he showed flashes of potentially being a good running back in the future. I mean, he's been on the team for about 3 years now, and he never saw playing time in the NFL, but I think he maybe solidified a place up there now with Miles Sanders being hurt quite a bit. And he played really well. They ran pretty well on the Cowboys defense overall. And right after that, he got activated to the active roster. So maybe we'll see a bit more of Jason Huntley going into the future. But with that, I think what we should move on into is the playoffs. And I think we should preview the Eagles game first, and then we'll do our playoff brackets for the NFL. So the Eagles play the Bucs at 1 p.m. on Sunday. And honestly, this game is just a game of injuries. Who can overcome injuries more is basically what this game is coming down to. The Bucs will be running with presumably only Mike Evans at wide receiver. Chris Godwin is out with a torn ACL. Antonio Brown's not coming back. We saw what happened there. He's going to be gone. They also lost their other wide receiver. I can't think of his name. I know his last name's Grayson. Cyril Grayson. That's his name. Cyril Grayson.
Number 10?
15.
15.
He suffered a hamstring injury last week against the Panthers, so he's questionable to play. So yeah, they're going to have to bring out Scotty Miller, who was kind of buried in the depth chart coming up to this game, but is another couple questionable players. Is Leonard Fournette going to play? Is Levante David going to play? I mean, those are two really big pieces of the game right there, because Leonard Fournette has revived his career in Tampa. So those two are two big players. Another big one is Shaq Barrett, which, listen to this. Shaq Barrett partially tore his ACL and I believe his MCL, and is still got activated for this week. So
who's the doctor that did that?
I mean, it's crazy to me that he could potentially play, but
I think it'd be stupid too, frankly.
Yeah, honestly, because you'll hurt yourself more most likely. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens there. But that's those are the big name injuries for the Bucks. The big name injuries for the Eagles is obviously Miles Sanders, and he looks like he's going to be playing as he returned to practice without a wrap on his hand, which is huge. He got surgery on it though. He got a metal rod put into his hand. So I'm sure that's not going to feel good if you take a hit on the hand at all. Jordan Howard's still dealing with a stinger in his shoulder, like a pinched nerve. So, and that's something that you don't really want to play with if you can go against it. But I mean, it's a playoff game. I'm sure none of these guys want to miss these games. I think those are the only two real big injuries. Josh Sweat is going through an illness right now that's not COVID-19 related. So we'll see what happens there. Hopefully he'll be back. But I think the biggest factor to the Eagles injuries is obviously the running backs, because they are the number one rushing offense in the league, going against, I believe, I'm going to double check right now, but I believe Tampa's rushing defense is third in the league. And then Tampa has the number one pass offense.
I did see a stat on ESPN this morning. It showed how the Bucks stats. I don't quote me on this, but I think this is what it was. Like when they were blitzed less than around 5 times in a game, they were obviously first in the league. But when they were blitzed over, it was either 5 or 7 times in a game, then their passing offense goes down to like middle of the league. So yeah. I think it could be interesting if you can pressure Tom Brady. He's not going to get the ball out quick. A lot of his receivers are hurt.
He doesn't move either.
So I think this game has a possibility to be an upset if you guys are able to maintain the ball, like dominate time of possession. You guys could squeak out with a win.
Yeah. I also think that, so last time they met, it was a 28-22 win for the Bucks, which that score doesn't reflect the game at all because it was 28-7 by the end of the first half. So, I mean, the Bucks totally blew the Eagles out of the water, and the Eagles fought back and had some garbage time touchdowns, which meant absolutely nothing for the team. So that doesn't reflect the last game at all. I believe the Eagles do have a chance here. I think obviously injuries are going to play a big part. I saw something on First Take this morning where they were going a little bit into depth about the Eagles game, and they were doing an over under, and they're like, over under Jalen Hurts 49.5 rushing yards. And then they go over under Tom Brady 1.5 rushing yards. They're really coming out on Tom Brady, which that still might be the under.
I think both of them are going to be over.
Huh?
I think both are going to be over. I think Tampa's defense is really slow.
I feel like Jalen Hurts has really stopped rushing as much as he used to, which I think is going to be huge for the future because, I mean, obviously you don't want your quarterback running a ton because they won't last long in the league. But yeah, I think Jalen Hurts running is probably – so while you don't want him to run because you don't want him to get hurt, his rushing is also a big factor because, I mean, if our running backs are getting stopped or he's just a change-up because you don't really expect to see him run as much. So, I mean, if they can use him as a change-up in the running game a little and give him designed quarterback runs, I mean, maybe that's a little change. But the rushing offense is all going to depend on the health of the Bucks front seven. Another injury I forgot is Jason Pierre-Paul, who's also questionable. And not only, I mean, he's not one of the best anymore, but he was
still decent.
Yeah, he's still a good pass rusher, definitely. I mean, obviously having that extra guy on the front seven for the rush too helps. But I mean, Vita Vea is a great run stuffer, and he works perfectly for a 3-4. So Jason Kelce is going to have his hands full the entire game. But overall, I think this is going to be a good game.
Yeah,
think
I
it's
think
going to
it
be.
definitely has the possibility of being a very tight upset.
I I do believe going into our guesses, I do believe that the Eagles are going to win.
I do too. I just like, when you have a gut feeling about something, like you don't
Yeah.
know why, like it goes against what you'd assume your logic would be. But yeah, I just have a gut feeling that I just think they're gonna win.
So the Eagles are or the Bucks are 8.5 point favorites, which is
That's a little.
honestly, yeah, that's kind of disrespectful to the Eagles, in my opinion, especially with all their injuries and everything. But I think that so the way I look at it is the secondary is going to be huge because if so they could play man and just lock, or even if they want to play zone and just have Darius Slay follow Mike Evans. I mean, that's one of the biggest things is because I think Darius Slay can just lock out Mike Evans. Marshawn Lattimore did that to Mike Evans too. I mean, Marshawn Lattimore owns Mike Evans. So if you have Darius Slay there to just lock out Mike Evans, they're really not going to have much else to do. I think Cameron Brate and Rob Gronkowski are going to be huge in this game. They're going to be playing a big factor because I feel like Tom Brady is going to be nickel and diming the defense a lot with the tight ends, which that is going to be a boring game to watch. Long methodical drives from Tom Brady just to Gronk every single play. But I think this game is going to ultimately come down to ball control, and the Eagles defense is made to just lay back and give them what's up front. They haven't given up many passes over the top at all this season. So I do like the Eagles look with the rush and everything. Like I said, I'm going to go with the Eagles winning here. I know that's kind of a hot take, but I think like I said earlier in the season, I think it was about week 14, we said, where no matter who got in, whether it was Washington or the Eagles, I feel like they could mess around and win a game. If they win, I don't think they're beating Green Bay.
Yeah, they're not beating Green Bay, but yeah, they could mess around.
I think they could mess around and win a game. Probably not two, but they can mess around and beat Tampa, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that could definitely happen. For me, I think the biggest thing for the Eagles is you're going to have to force like the Bucks offense to kind of speed up. What I mean by that is you have to dominate the time of possession, and then once the Bucks get the ball, you're going to have to force them to play from behind and like make sure that they can't take their time with their drives, kind of force them to speed up and change up what their game plan is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, because Tom Brady is all about getting the ball out of his hand quick, taking those long drives, and you can't give. I mean, even if they do give Tom Brady time, or even if they don't give him much time, it's Tom Brady. You've seen what he can do in a 2-minute drill. I mean, that's ultimately you push him against the clock. It's still a better scenario, but you still have to. It's still Tom Brady. That's the way you got to look at it.
Yeah, the amount of times that we've all probably doubted him and he's gone and won, we've all done that. So if they end up winning, nobody will be surprised. But yeah.
What was I gonna say? I kind of forgot, but I think that Jonathan Gannon needs to not lay back as much as he usually does. Like you said, I think he needs to put up some pressure. Although, actually, I could see him doing that a little bit more with the lack of weapons that Tom Brady really has right now, with the only receiver he really has being Mike Evans, and then him potentially not having his running back either. Ronald Jones was also hurt last week. He didn't play against the Panthers. So if he's out, I mean, they're down to a third running back at that point. So they're really counting on who's going to be able to play this week injury wise. I mean, they really caught the injury bug at the worst time in the season.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to give the Eagles, I'm going to give them a close 24-21 win.
I'm going to go with 20-19. I'm going with a weird score.
I also am really interested to see what the Eagles receivers do against the Bucks secondary, because last time they saw them, the Bucks secondary was totally different. I mean, they were playing third corners at the number one last time we played them. So I really want to see what they do against their secondary. So they still have Antoine Winfield Jr.
Who?
Antoine Winfield Jr., son of Antoine Winfield.
Oh, him.
You don't know who Antoine? Oh my gosh.
No.
So yeah, I want to see. I'm excited to see what the team does there. And something that I heard about last time they played is Shaq Barrett kept on rushing Jalen Hurts and making him roll out to the right. I want to see if they play that a little differently, because if you look at Jalen Hurts splits, he throws the ball almost always to the right. They pile Devontae Smith's routes up to the right because they know Jalen Hurts likes throwing to the right, doesn't like going left as much. So I'm interested to see how the Bucks attack that, in how they stack up the rushes and where they make a move. That's going to be another interesting factor to the game.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll see the Bucks kind of like really forcing him left and forcing him to do things that he's really uncomfortable with.
And if they do stay injured, Shaq Barrett doesn't play, Levante David doesn't play. Say if they do stay injured, I don't see the Bucks rushing as much as they usually do. Say Jason Pierre-Paul's still injured, I don't see them rushing as much as they usually do. That's kind of a big factor, because those are three of their biggest weapons on defense, and a big part of being a defensive coordinator and play calling is, do you have the personnel that you trust to run the plays that you want to? So I think that'll play a big factor. But
yeah, I just think the Bucks' depth and players are going to be depleted too much.
But the Eagles love that underdog mentality, so I'm taking the Eagles over the Bucks in wild card weekend.
We both are, which is quite strange.
Yeah, I did not see you taking taking the Eagles here. I thought for sure you would take the Bucks.
Well, knowing my predictions, it's probably not a good thing I'm taking the Eagles, because you can count on one hand.
Eagles will probably lose.
Right.
Eagles will probably lose now. If they do, I'll blame you.
Quite badly. It won't even be close.
You want to get into the rest of the playoffs now?
Yeah, let's start with NFC.
Do you remember who your Super Bowl picks were at the beginning of the season? Mine were the Rams and the Bills. I believe yours were
mine were the. I think it was Packers and Bills or Titans. I think.
I thought it was Bills or Chiefs. I can look next time.
It was Bills or Titans. I didn't choose the Chiefs.
I think then you said Bills. Then I think you said Packers Bills.
Yeah, but once we get to it, I've changed my mind.
I'm sticking to mine because that's just, I don't want to change it, so I will be sticking to it. The road will be interesting. So starting with the NFC, you have the Eagles against the Bucks, the 49ers against the Cowboys,
and the Rams against the Cardinals, which I think is going to be the best game.
Probably. They're on Monday night, probably just to use.
That's going to be the best game.
Yeah. So we already both said that the Eagles are beating the Bucks. Who else? What about the Cowboys 49ers game? This one is going to be an interesting game, in my opinion.
This is going to be tough because from what I've seen, the Cowboys are starting to get a few injuries. But I don't think the 49ers are that good of a team. I still don't. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
Wow, really? That sounds gross.
It really does. I don't have them moving on.
I'm not. I'm going with the 49ers. The 49ers rushing attack is stellar, one of the top in the league. I'll actually pull that up because I am.
Micah Parsons is going to play a big role, and if I was the 49ers,
he covers the entire field all at once.
I would want Trayvon Diggs to be on Deebo Samuel. I would want that matchup.
Yeah, that's what I think is going to be. So two of the biggest factors in that game both uh both San Francisco offensive issues is their rushing attack because so I mean the Cowboys have two really good defensive ends in Randy Gregory and DeMarcus Lawrence, but their interior D line isn't the greatest. It's pretty bad. So I mean, and they use Deebo Samuel a lot running in between the tackles, and despite being a wide receiver, he is a powerful runner. So I'm interested to see what he can do there.
And yes, the Cowboys have good edge rushers, but the 49ers have one of the best left tackles in the league, Trent Williams. And if you're looking at it, like, I think Trent Williams is a better tackle than Gregory and the other guy are defensive ends.
DeMarcus
think that. Yeah, DeMarcus Lawrence. I just think Trent Williams is a better tackle than they are ends.
So the 49ers have the 7th rushing offense in the league. But I think that Nick Bosa is going to play a big factor in this too. Because I mean,
but I just don't think that the 49ers secondary is going to be good enough for the Cowboys air attack. I just can't see them winning this game.
I don't see much defense being played in this game at all.
Yeah, I don't either. And if it comes down to whose offense is more explosive, you have to go with the Cowboys.
I'm going to take the 49ers based my ultimate matchup that makes this game is Deebo Samuel against Trayvon Diggs. That is the biggest factor of this game. As long as they do match up against each other, which I think they will, because you see Trayvon Diggs, he's a playmaker. He's not a good covered corner. He transitioned in the middle of college to corner. So you still see aspects of that. And so you see him trying to bite. He's trying to be a playmaker. He wants to get interceptions. And I believe that Deebo Samuel will just be able to expose the fact that he just wants to make plays.
Yeah, and I think it's shown by the fact that he's given up over 1,000 yards this year, but I still think it's going to be an offensive battle. And I think that the 49ers offense is a little more they don't have as many weapons or threats, and I think they're more linear, if that makes any sense.
I say if Deebo Samuel has at least 6 catches this game, the 49ers definitely win. Deebo Samuel, 6 catches, 10 touches total. I think 49ers win because he is a huge X factor. Do I see the 49ers moving on much further than that? No. I mean, there's no way. But I do think that the Cowboys are an upset alert. And keep in mind the Cowboys past. They've won one first round game in the past how many years? I mean, they haven't been performing in the playoffs. You see them dominate during the season, but then once they get to the postseason, they forget how to play football almost. I mean, and you don't really see them play great against good teams. I think funny coming from an Eagles
win against a team with 10 wins. I don't think they have a win.
The Eagles don't have a win against a team over 500 at the end of the season.
Yeah.
But I mean, they played the Panthers when the Panthers were supposedly really good. They beat
the first,
them
4 games of the season.
They did get a good win against Denver. That was a good Denver team. They didn't end up
without a good team, Tristan. What are you talking about?
No, not now. But when they were playing them, dude, Denver was one of the top teams in the AFC when they were playing them.
What? No.
Yeah,
no, they weren't.
That was a good Denver team.
It wasn't. Their quarterback situation was a mess, and their defense was terrible.
What do you mean? Their defense was not terrible.
It wasn't terrible, but not anything special.
But I mean, the way that they were playing, they were not playing like they did at the end of the season. They played better at the beginning of the season.
They played better, but I still don't think they were a very good team. And that's shown by the fact they just fired their coach.
Oh, they did? They fired Vic Fangio?
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
But those those 2 wins, yes, at the end of the season, no team was over 500, but I do think that the Panthers game, the win against the Panthers and the win against the Broncos were 2 big wins, and they played the Chargers really hard too, but they didn't end up beating them. They lost that by 3. So, but yeah, I'm taking the 49ers in this game over the Cowboys.
I'm taking the Cowboys. Yeah.
All right, and then the Rams and the Cardinals. This is going to be the game of the wild card, definitely. Maybe even the game of the playoffs. This is the Super Bowl before the Super Bowl.
Very well could be.
They're 1-1 against each other in the season. Rams won in Arizona, and Arizona won in LA. It's an interesting matchup, but the Cardinals have fell off. They stopped playing after 7.
They really have.
They went from 7-0 to 11-5.
Yeah, and Kyler Murray was hurt a few games, but they still have fell off in terms of their play. I'm gonna have to go with Rams.
I'm going with the Rams here, easy. I mean, this is
from what we've seen recently. I just don't think the Cardinals will have enough.
The Cardinals fell. And I mean, they still might not have DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, that's a big factor.
Yeah. So, I mean, which actually helps the Rams. Obviously it helps the Rams with the fact that they don't have DeAndre Hopkins. But I mean, at that point, you have a top corner in the league able to guard half the field. And now he doesn't have to worry about the best player, one of the best receivers in the league.
Yeah, it certainly helps with their scheming.
Yeah, so I mean that's super helpful for the Rams, not just because DeAndre Hopkins isn't there, it's just because Jalen Ramsey doesn't have to focus only on DeAndre Hopkins, which is huge. But like I said, Jalen Ramsey covers half the field. The Rams secondary after that is a bit sketchy.
They have Eric Weddle back.
Oh yeah, they are re-signing Eric Weddle. I forgot about that.
I mean, it's a little questionable because he's old, and then his first game is going to be a difficult playoff matchup.
That's gotta be
how effective he'll be.
That's gotta be brutal to like the free agent safeties who are like, "Are you serious? You're signing a 36-year-old safety over me?"
Just because he played for you guys in the past.
Yeah, he played for him in his younger years. He went to the Ravens afterwards.
Yeah, I remember that. Then they released him and Earl Thomas.
Yeah, Eric Weddle was 37 years old.
Oh,
jeez.
Yeah, he's definitely going to have to. He should not be relying on his speed.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. He actually went from the Chargers to the Ravens to the Rams. That's right. I don't know why I thought he was with the Rams before. Well, I knew he was with the Rams before, but so yeah, I don't think he's going to play that much of a factor. I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I definitely see the Rams beating the Cardinals here. So over to the AFC, the Bills Patriots.
That's going to be an interesting game.
That is
sub-freezing game.
It's in Buffalo too.
Yeah.
Which is a wind tunnel. So if any wind gets in there, that's a mess.
Yeah, but I did see a stat where it showed that Josh Allen he's had some good games in freezing temperatures, and he can do a lot more than Mac Jones. For me, the Patriots, if they can't get the running game going, they can't do anything.
Yeah.
So
I mean, what they did against the Bills when they played them is when they played them in that one really windy game, they threw the ball 3 times and still won.
Yeah, but I think that the Bills have gotten back on their feet, and I think they're going to win it. It's going to be a difficult game for me. I think you're going to see some really ugly touchdowns, but I do think the Bills are going to edge this one out. And considering that the Patriots have kind of fallen off, they had a really good start, but they fell and dropped a few games and only squeaked into the playoffs.
I also think Josh Allen's experience will help beat Mac Jones because Mac Jones
Yeah.
is a rookie quarterback in the playoffs, and the playoffs are different than a regular season. It's a totally
They do have Bill Belichick, but they don't really have many offensive weapons. And
yeah, but you saw last season. What's Bill Belichick without a decent quarterback?
um,
Exactly. So I mean, you have to.
he's a defensive coordinator. That's what he is.
So I mean, you have to see what you have to look at the aspects that he has or the weapons that he has to work with. Like I said, a coach can have amazing plays, but unless he has the players that he trusts to run the plays, they mean nothing.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that Mac Jones is a rookie is actually going to make him suffer in this game. And I think the Bills are beating the Patriots. Next is the Bengals Raiders game.
Never in a million years did I think at the beginning of the season that this would be a playoff matchup and I would have the Bengals being the favorite.
Oh, dude, I think the Bengals are going to absolutely dog on the Raiders. I do not see
Jamar
them
Chase
holding
and
it.
Joe Burrow are becoming a really great duo. And at the beginning of the season, I thought their offensive line would really leave Joe Burrow out in the mud and really get him in trouble. But I was wrong. I said it in last episode. Yeah, the Bengals are a really great team, and Burrow's what we thought Baker Mayfield would be.
The Raiders secondary is mediocre at best. They have Jamar Chase, who was a number 5 overall pick, T. Higgins, who was a number 33 overall pick, and Tyler Boyd, who came out of nowhere, honestly. I mean, I didn't even know that guy existed until a couple seasons ago. He hasn't been the same.
Yeah,
but
I knew he existed, but I didn't really expect him to play as
yeah,
good as
he hasn't. He's still a big weapon. So I mean, the Bengals wide receivers just outmatched the Raiders secondary so much, and I don't think the Raiders stand a chance. Derek Carr has shown that he's shown his weaknesses, and the Raiders showed that once they start to get a little bit of pushback against them, they can't always hold up.
I will say this about the Raiders. We beat them.
The Eagles did not. But yeah, I don't think that I don't even think this game is going to be close. I think
Burrow's going to have a coming out performance.
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be a good game for the Bengals. That's about it. I think the Bengals fans will be happy. Raiders fans will probably want to turn it off by halftime, in my opinion.
Yeah, and next we have the TikTok Bowl between Chase Claypool and Patrick Mahomes' brother, who I really dislike after the Washington game.
This is another game where it doesn't really matter because the Chiefs are gonna. Did you see where Big Ben even said he's like, yeah, we don't deserve to be here. We should not be here. We are not a team to be here, but here we are. He's like, we're just trying to come out and have fun.
I want the Steelers to win so bad. Like, I really do. I'm going to do something extremely stupid. The Steelers are going to win and then get dogged in the next round.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I just think, I think the Chiefs are going to overlook them. And we've seen this in the past. Way back when Elway was still on the Broncos, when they had Shannon Sharp as well, they were the first seed coming against the Jaguars, who probably shouldn't have been in the playoffs, and they ended up winning. So I think they have a possibility to win. And TJ Watt, I think, is going to be a key because the Chiefs offensive line has proven that it's not good, and they have gotten off to some rough starts, and especially with Patrick Mahomes not playing as well as he has been, I think it could be a close game, and I could see the Steelers squeaking out a very tight victory, and considering that this game is not going to affect them. They have nothing to lose, and it's Big Ben's last year, so the team is probably going to want to rally behind him. I think they're going to win.
Wow. Okay.
That's going to be stupid in hindsight in a few days, but
I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, I don't. I saw an analyst say that the Chiefs should rest their starters.
I did see that as well. That's stupid.
Yeah,
That's
I
really
think
stupid.
that's
Don't actually. Please do that. Please do that, Chiefs. I want to see you do that.
so. I'll I'll let you finish the rest of your bracket because since we have different teams moving on, then it's a little different. So for you, it's then going to be the Titans versus the Steelers, and
Titans are gonna whoop the Steelers. Then I have the Bengals losing to the Bills,
so
and
Bills
then
Titans AFC Championship.
and I have the Titans going on to the Super Bowl. And
Okay.
because I think Derrick Henry is going to come back, and we saw before he got injured, nobody could stop him. I think he's on his way to another 2,000-yard season. I think he's going to come in
He
firing at
had
all.
I think he had 1,000 yards, but well, he ended up only finishing the season with 937 yards.
Yeah,
But
but he was leading the league in rushing for like a few weeks, even after he was injured.
yeah,
He
yeah.
was he's head and shoulders above all the other running backs in terms of pure running ability
Yeah.
and his physical dominance.
So you
Mhm.
have Tennessee going to the Super Bowl, and then I
Yeah.
think you had Dallas winning, so it would be
Yeah.
it
I
would
have Green Bay and the Eagles. Green Bay's gonna win.
yes,
Sorry, Tristan. And then I have the Rams and
Dallas.
Cowboys, and I have the Rams beating the Cowboys, and then I have Rams versus Green Bay. I think Green Bay is gonna pull another Green Bay move and lose in another championship game, and I think it's gonna be Rams Titans.
Do you have a winner for the Super Bowl?
Titans. I think Derrick Henry is gonna be Super Bowl MVP.
Okay, so I am taking. So okay, wait, hold on, real quick. I want to throw a wrench in your works. What if Derrick Henry's not back?
And they'd still beat the Steelers, but then they would end up losing to the Bills.
Okay, so
But I
that
have seen reports that Derrick Henry has been on the practice field and looks very healthy and strong.
so so I'll start with the NFC. I would have the 49ers against the Rams, which despite the week 18 matchup, I don't think that was what the Rams really played like. I think the 49ers ran the ball over the Rams, but it's hard to play the same team 3 times in a season. I believe San Fran beat the Rams twice this season. I will double check that real quick. But if it's hard to beat the same team 3 times in a row.
Yeah, very difficult, especially with the team as good as the Rams.
Yeah, so I mean it's hard to this is not letting me. Can I do that? Oh, yes. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, so they've already beat them twice. It's hard to beat the same team 3 times in a season. And you already saw how much of a fight the Rams put up in the last game. So I'm taking the Rams over the 49ers. I would have the Eagles losing to Darius Slay has given up 2 100-yard games in his career. Both of them, well, one was to DK Metcalf. The other one was to Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams absolutely torched Darius Slay last season. Same thing's going to happen. There is nothing they're going to be able to do to stop Devontae Adams. Green Bay is handling the Eagles. Easy, no doubt. Rams, Packers, NFC Championship, like you said. The Packers, well, they're the Packers. Rams are going to the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford, first ever Super Bowl appearance, making it all the way through the playoffs. In the AFC, it would be the Titans against the Bengals. Now, here's where things get a little bit iffy. So if the Titans have Derrick Henry, they're beating the Bengals easy because I don't think the Bengals have any chance to stop Derrick Henry. If they don't, I'm gonna presume that as of right now, Derrick Henry wouldn't be able to play.
I'm doing the opposite.
I'm gonna say that right now he's not playing because that's what it is right now. So I'm saying Derrick Henry can't play. The Bengals are gonna beat the Titans at that point. If Derrick Henry doesn't play, the Bengals are beating the Titans because I think that Joe Burrow in a shootout passing game, Joe Burrow is better than Ryan Tannehill, and there is no doubt about it. So I think that the Bengals are beating the Titans in the second round in the divisional. Then it would be the Bills against the Chiefs. And I think this is the time that the Bills are able to slay their demons and beat the Chiefs and go on to the AFC Championship. And then I don't think the Bengals are meant for an extended playoff run, in which case I take the Bills over the Bengals because Joe Burrow is still a little too young to go that far, in my opinion. So I would say that the Bills will go over the Bengals and go to the Super Bowl, playing the Rams. And my winner is the Rams. Yeah, I still stick by the Rams winning. I really do want to see Matthew Stafford win a Super Bowl too. I mean that man is gone through.
Before we worry about him winning Super Bowl, how about he focus on winning a playoff game first?
That is true. I mean,
let's just focus on that. I saw that on a sports show this morning. I didn't even realize it, but yeah, never won a playoff game.
He was also stuck with the
Lions. That is true. He did have Megatron, but that's about it.
Yeah, and the phantom PI call against the Cowboys.
Yeah, that was a little ridiculous.
He didn't even touch him. He just puts his hands up and he's like, you can't block his view. That's a penalty. So yeah, I think the Rams are winning the Super Bowl. And I'll give you my MVP. My MVP will be Cooper Kupp. After winning the NFL MVP, he's winning 2 MVPs.
It should not be Aaron Rodgers or Jonathan Taylor.
And that there will wrap up our playoff predictions. I have the Rams winning.
How long are we going to be this time?
You have the Bills winning, right?
No, I have Titans.
Oh, the Titans with Derrick Henry. That's right.
Yeah, I think he's going to come back and just whoop everybody.
Yeah. So that will wrap up that. And I believe we will move on to hockey now. You got anything else football-wise?
No, nothing else football-wise.
Oh, wait. One more thing I did want to talk about because this was a huge factor in the playoff picture. The Colts losing to the Jaguars. What?
That was, I don't know how they managed to run
it's not even it's not even
Carson Wentz's fault. He had 2 touchdowns.
He played terribly. Carson Wentz played absolutely miserably. And I think the Colts missing the playoffs is getting put on him a little too much because he played well in the beginning of the season. He didn't play terribly the entire season. He played well. The last 2 games, he played awful. When it was clutch time, he did not play well. But I think once in the beginning of the season, he did play well. I don't think that he's going to be out of Indianapolis next season.
I think they should stick with him for another year.
The Colts GM did not say that he's going to be the starter next season. That'd be
a very stupid trade that they would have made.
Yeah. I'm actually going to look at, I saw something today. Hang on one sec. It says Colts GM, when asked if Carson Wentz is still their QB next year, he said he will not comment at this time who will not be a Colt next year. Yeah. So,
okay.
And they gave up a first-round pick for someone who could potentially not even be a starter. And then I'm gonna go, but I mean, it's not even like it was a close game. The Jaguars just put a beating on the Colts. They stopped Jonathan Taylor on a 4th and goal, which was huge for them on the 1. Because I mean, Jonathan Taylor is such a bruising back that he should have been able to get in. The Colts scored a late touchdown to make it a 16-point game, but it was a 23-point win essentially for the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence played the best game of his NFL career so far. Granted, he is a rookie, but he played the best game of his NFL career so far. So looks a little bright there in Jacksonville. Did you see the one play? He was on the run and threw it not across his body, but he was going to his left and threw it to Marvin Jones in the corner of the end zone. That was a beautiful pass. It was about a 25 yard pass. It was a beautiful pass. I got to give credit where credit is due. And that was beautiful. But yeah, and that's the reason that the Steelers were in. And the other thing I kind of want to talk about was the Chargers games. Did you see that?
I did see that the Rams, or not the
That
Rams, the
that game was
Raiders really
insane.
stuck it to the Chargers.
But so what makes first off, another reason I also think the Raiders are going to get destroyed is look at what happened in the fourth quarter when the Chargers were down. The Raiders absolutely collapsed. And the Chargers scored 2 touchdowns, and I want to say 6 minutes to tie the game up and go into overtime. And they gave up a touchdown with no time left on the clock. Justin Herbert showed his clutch gene in that game really well because he was so composed and he was developed. He went through his reads, looked for the open receiver, and he played smart in the end of the game there. So you got to give credit to Justin Herbert. And so, but yeah, I mean, you saw how the Raiders just fell apart. And then the Chargers created their own funeral when they called that timeout late in the game. So the Raiders interim head coach said that he was like, yeah, we thought about going for the tie. It's like, but then they called the timeout and we had a chance to run the ball in extra time. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the Chargers were doing there, but yeah.
Yeah, that was super. I'm sure Justin Herbert's so mad. Which I think
that would be too.
I think Justin Herbert's going to be a top 5 quarterback next season. Like in the future, my top 5 quarterbacks of the future are Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, why can't I think of him? Patrick Mahomes, duh. So Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and a singular NFC quarterback in Kyler Murray.
Just one.
That's because the NFC has all the old guys right now.
Yeah, it's an old conference.
Yeah. But I mean the future is bright in the AFC. The game is just expanding so much and it's crazy. But yeah, I really would have liked to see a tie just to kick the Steelers out. Because that would have been amazing. That would have been funny. Because you can't write that up. You just can't. So now I am ready to move over to hockey.
And people are very mad with the NHL this week because the All-Star Game rosters were announced and they have a stupid rule where every team has to have an all-star representative, which I think is ridiculous. We're just going to focus on the Metropolitan, but there has been some robberies in other conferences. Like Brad Marchand isn't on the all-star team, and neither is Nassim Kadri, who's, I believe, 4th or 5th in points in the entire league. So the Metro Division team is Frederick Anderson, Sebastian Aho, Zach Werneski from the Blue Jackets, Jack Hughes, Adam Pleach, Adam Fox, Chris Kreider, Claude Giroux, Tristan Jarry, and Alex Ovechkin. I do not like the rule where you have to have a representative from every team because Crosby isn't in it, Svechnikov isn't in it, Kuznetsov isn't in it, who straight up has more points than Giroux. Gensel, he's not in it.
I still think personally, and this is gonna sound biased. I'm saying this from an unbiased point of view though. I still think Claude Giroux is overall a better player than Kuzi. Kuzi might have more points, but the fact that Claude Giroux is essentially taking the entire team on his back right now. I mean, the team is a skeleton of what it used to be. And so the fact that Claude Giroux has taken the team, put it on his back, and he's basically just doing everything for the team right now. So I think even if there wasn't a rule that there had to be a representative from each team, I think Claude Giroux would have made the all-star team anyway, because just the rate that he's playing, the way that he's playing at his age is just insane, in my opinion.
And I don't think Adam Pleach should be there.
I've never even heard of Adam Pleach in my life.
He's a defenseman on the Islanders. In 24 games, he has no goals
and 5
assists. So he must be Pellet. Yeah, Pelec.
Yeah, that's Adam Pelech, not Pleach.
Pleach. And Jack Hughes straight up should not be there.
He was 19 for most of the season.
He should not be there. Plain and simple. it's a little ridiculous that they have this rule. Like, and Roman Yossi and Kadri aren't on the All-Star team, and one of them will definitely not be.
They have the last man votes up now, but yeah, I mean, that's.
I don't think that's enough. I just don't like their system.
Agreed. Alex Ovechkin's still sticking with the young guys, only 1 point behind with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl.
100-point plus season, baby.
And I was gonna say maybe another Richard, only 2 goals behind Leon Draisaitl.
Definitely not out of the question.
Yeah, so I mean he's playing at an amazing rate. This man, he's 35, right?
He's 36.
He is not aging. Jeez.
Yeah. I'm surprised.
Let's go over the Capitals first. Any news on the Capitals? Because there's a lot to go over with the Flyers.
We've had some rough games. Starting with, we had a game against the Wild, and
they've dropped. The Washington has dropped
the past 3 games. We lost to the Blues. That just straight up wasn't a good game. The Wild, we should have won that. We were up 2-0, and we had all the momentum in the world. And then we had a delayed penalty, and so it was 6-on-5 with an empty net. For some peculiar reason, Carl Hagelin decided to throw a very strong pass to not a very good place, and it ended up being an own goal, and it changed the entire momentum of the game, and we ended up losing. And I was quite mad because the pass made no sense. You shouldn't be passing back that hard when it's a delayed penalty and you're already going to get a power play. You have the momentum in the game and there's an empty net. And the thing about Carl Hagelin is he was a healthy scratch for the Bruins game. Good, because he hasn't been producing much of anything. And I think we should look to trade him for like maybe a 7th or just keep him as a healthy scratch. And then that Bruins game, that was just an ugly game. Our defense couldn't do anything. We played horribly. I just think this has been a bad run, and we haven't played many away games, and I just think we need to.
The scary thing now is, well, first off, they already, for the most part, essentially have a playoff spot locked in, because the East is very, very distinguished in, you got the top 3 teams. Well, so in the Metro, it's the Rangers at the top with 52. Just saying, pick the Rangers to win the division. I still think that is a great pick. Carolina with 50 points, but they have 4 games in hand on the Rangers. Washington with 49 points. Tampa is at the top of the Atlantic with 55, Florida with 53, and then Toronto with 49. Pittsburgh with 47. And this is where things started to get shuffled up. Boston was about 5 games behind everyone else, and they were hovering around the same point margin as the Red Wings, the Blue Jackets, and the Flyers, around like 35 point mark. And then they played all their games, and they've now jumped up. They have 34 games played, and they have 44 points, which is 3 points behind the Penguins with 2 games in hand in the wild card. And so now with 4 games in hand on Detroit is 7 points behind Boston. So, I mean, the East is very distinguished. You got your top 8 teams. And then there is really, I mean, for Detroit, Columbus, Philadelphia, New Jersey, who would be the only teams that really have a chance. And they're even really getting way out there. That's kind of rough because Boston has really stepped it up and is playing well.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be difficult to grab a wild card spot. I don't think the Flyers are going to get near it. I think you're going to be sellers at the deadline. You're going to try and get younger.
So this is where all that talk that I was saying about the Flyers comes in. And the first thing I want to start off with is Ryan Ellis was not the move. I mean, the the Flyers haven't had a full healthy lineup for a single game this season. Now, I'm not saying that as an excuse. Everyone gets hit with the injury bug, but I am saying that they have not had a single game where the entire lineup has been healthy. Because so they had one where everyone was in the lineup, but Ryan Ellis was recovering from an injury, so he was on the third line. So he wasn't playing his normal minutes and everything. So I still really wouldn't count that. But that's the closest thing they've had to a full lineup. At the beginning of the season, when Ryan Ellis was able to play, Ristolainen was hurt. So you still haven't seen the full lineup play together. And lately they have just, it's been rough. Ryan Ellis is still out, and they've said he's making absolutely no strides back. And the most important thing in the NHL isn't how good you play. Well, obviously it is. I mean, like, you want to be good, but you can be the best player in the world. And if you're not available, what does it matter? And Ryan Ellis, in the first couple of games, the Flyers were zooming around. Like, they were playing amazingly. Ryan Ellis was making tape-to-tape stretch passes, which made the offense look so much quicker. And when he got hurt, he hasn't been available since, and that has made the Flyers suffer significantly. The goalies were clicking at like 1.5 goals against averages, and now the team is barely standing in front of the goalies. I mean, they are now on a 6-game losing streak again.
The schedule, like you said, isn't that hard. It's
hang on, let me pull up the schedule.
Tristan, you said it before. It was an easy.
They had a little stint where it wasn't that hard. Like last month, it wasn't that hard. This is still easier than it was, but it's still not
easier. And you should be playing better.
They should, but
I still maintain that you should look to trade Giroux because I think he's going to leave in free agency.
I think the trade deadline is going to get really interesting. I mean, they essentially have to streak from here on out. They cannot, if they want to actually, the math is getting to a point where it's a little too hard to try to make it work. So they really don't have a chance, but the deadline is going to be interesting because the way I look at it is a lot of Flyers fans are calling for a full rebuild, which I don't think they understand the pain that is in a full rebuild. And I am not ready for that pain that would be involved in a full rebuild.
Rather be a middle of the table team that's not really going anywhere, or a crap team that is going to have a high ceiling at some point in the future.
But you know who did rebuild really well? The Avalanche. The Avalanche took about 4 or 5 years. What?
You weren't the Avalanche, though.
No, but I'm just saying, like, they did have a good rebuild. Like, that is a successful rebuild. They took 4 or 5 years where they were the bottom of the Western Conference every single year. They got Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon, Gabriel Landeskog, Mikko Rantanen. They got really good draft picks. They drafted well. They're playing well now. They're now cup contenders for years to come. So, like, they are a good rebuild. They were a good rebuild. So that gives a little bit of hope. But like I said, that took 4 or 5 years. The Toronto, that was another team that I wouldn't say that was a really bad rebuild, or that wasn't a long rebuild. They kind of had a couple years where they were mediocre, and then they got Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, and they kind of jumped back up. I wouldn't say that was a hard rebuild. Same with Anaheim. Anaheim had like 2 years where they were just mediocre, middle of the table.
Still rebuilding though, but they are certainly on the way up.
But they're looking, they look good.
Yeah. From what you're saying is that the Flyers probably should do a rebuild, and I know you're not ready for your team to be crap, but to go up, you have to hit rock bottom first, Tristan.
But the thing is, okay, look at that's where the trade deadline is going to be interesting, because Chuck Fletcher has a decision to make. Is he going to go on to a full rebuild? Which I don't think they need to. I think the coaching staff is the first issue at hand. And then second is the injuries. I mean, that's like, they have a good team. Ristolainen's playing well. If Ryan Ellis was there. I mean, they saw at the beginning of the season what the team could be with Ryan Ellis. Was Ryan Ellis a smart trade? The way it's looking right now, no, he was a terrible trade. He played 3 games, got hurt, played 1 game on the third line, got hurt, and hasn't played since. He's played 4 games through the entire season, through 37. So, I mean, he's not been there. I mean, he does not look like a good trade. And then everything hit all at once. COVID, injuries. I mean, it's all hitting at once, and it's really tearing the team down. I mean, they had to call up Cam York up to the squad. They had about 6 forwards on the Flyers that I had never heard of before in my life. The last couple of games. Giroux,
you need to start some rebuild. I'm not saying like trade the entire team, but you need to get rid of your older pieces. Like
I think Giroux is probably going. It's his decision now.
Yeah, it's his decision. He needs to go. 1, he needs to cement his legacy. 2, there's plenty of teams out there who would pay a pretty penny for a player for him. Who
I think they can get a conditional pick.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of teams who think that Giroux could possibly take them over the hump, and they would pay a good price. I just think you need to get younger and get more depth, or young guys, or draft picks. I just think that this iteration of the team isn't going to go anywhere. If sticks like this, I just think you're going to be forever in the middle of the table, which I think is worse than being a very bottom team.
I don't think like I would rather have a team that is like not middle of the table, but kind of a team like, hang on, I'm going to pull up
like a wild card team.
Not a wild card team, but like a team that's on the cusp of wild card and 3rd place in the division, then a team that is like number 1 in their division every year, but loses in the 2nd, 3rd round every time. Like the Caps. Exactly. Like the Caps got the cup once, but they've been the top of the division or up there at the top of the division
a lot of time. Yeah.
Like, and so,
but I just think
the Avalanche have been there like 3 years straight now.
I don't think this team has the possibility of being what you're saying. I really don't, because like Drew's probably going to leave regardless in the offseason.
Probably, yes. I would agree with that. So that's where it becomes, he has to waive his no move clause. It's all Claude Giroux's decision. If he says he wants to leave, then I'm sure they'll get rid of him, because like you said, I think they'll get a pretty penny for him. Whether it's a 1st round pick straight up or a conditional 1st rounder, I think they can get something pretty nice for him. And then, like I said, it's all comes down to what Chuck Fletcher decides to do. He has a decision to make in the next couple of weeks. First off, you have to see what the team does. It's getting to the point where the math is getting a little bit too hard to get into the playoffs. You're going to have to start counting on a lot of teams. You're going to have to start winning a lot more and streaking, going like in 20 games, maybe 17-3, like 16-4. You're going to have to start winning like that.
Doing that, your fate is pretty much all but decided.
Yeah. So, I mean, at this point, I'm agreeing with you. Them making the playoffs is probably under 10%. But before I can get into like whether they should fully rebuild or not is until they get to the trade deadline, because Claude, like you said, Claude Giroux, 1 year left, could be traded if he wants to stay in Philadelphia. I'm sure Chuck Fletcher will gladly re-sign Claude Giroux if he wants to stay in Philadelphia, because Claude Giroux is still playing like he's in his older 20s, like not like he's 32.
And if I was Giroux, I'd see that and realize, you know what, I need to cement my legacy and possibly try and make a final run for Hall of Fame, try and get 1,000 points, or trying to get a cup. And you're not going to do it at Philly. The time to do that was in the first few years of his career, which came and passed.
He was there. He was in the cup finals.
He was in the cup final, and then you guys.
And that was his coming out party that season. That was his coming. I mean, he played amazingly in this.
There was that series against the Penguins where him and Crosby got into it.
He had 6 points. He had 6 points in that game 2 game. against the Penguins.
Now your team has never been able to get close to that level. So I just think it's time for them to mutually part ways. No hard feelings. It's not like he's
I think I can speak mostly for all Flyers fans right here by saying if Claude Giroux goes on to another team to win another cup, I don't think anyone will be mad. I mean, he deserves it. He's one of those players where he gave everything he possibly could to this team, did what he could. I mean, dude, look at his point totals, and he had no one across from him.
Yeah, like what I said this in a few episodes ago, he's never played with a 40-goal scorer.
Exactly. Like what he's done in Philadelphia with what he had is amazing. And I don't think anyone would be mad if, like you said, he were to go on and try to win a cup with another team. I just hope it's not like Pittsburgh or something.
Yeah, headed, and some Flyers fans aren't really that level-headed.
Yeah. So like here's the things that could happen at the deadline. Like this is where things really start to get messed up. Ristolainen, he's on a 1-year deal. Does he get traded away? Does he stay? Because I personally would like to see him stay and get re-signed. Ristolainen is a really good. I think he really embodies the Broad Street bully way in him. I mean, I really like him. I'd like to see him stay and get re-signed. I think he could be a good piece for the future too. Travis Sanheim, another young guy. He's on a 2-year deal. He'd be a UFA after that. That's another guy that could get traded, and he's a top four D man. If they do that, they'd be bringing Cam York up. I don't know Justin Braun's deal, but he could potentially get traded. He's a good third line, stay at home guy. Then you got Travis Konechny could be traded. I mean, I don't know what's going on with him. I feel like he is just a slight, I feel like he's just kind of like having a rough time trying to get over the hump. He's putting up points, just not goals. And he's more of a goal scorer than he is just a point producer. Once he's like getting down there, getting in the rough areas, pissing people off, that is his type of game. And you haven't seen that from him in a while. But I can see him being traded. Ivan Provorov is a top pairing defenseman.
And thing about Konechny, he's still 24, so you can
young
parlay into a first or a second. So
yeah,
you have a lot of good pieces that could be moved for some good draft picks if you want to go full rebuild.
Ivan Provorov.
Half rebuild and just trade your older underperforming guys. You still have younger guys that could have an upside. And so you could use the rest of this season to just call up all your AHL prospects and then just have them have play time, even if they're playing like crap, just get them the experience.
So here's what I'd like to see. Odds of this happening are very low, and this probably isn't ready yet, but Keith Yandel is really only still in the lineup just for his streak. Once he gets the streak, he's probably benched. So I think once he gets his streak, I think they should bring if Cam York gets sent back down, I think they should bring Cam York back up, put him on the third line, let him play third line in the NHL, and he has potential to be able to play first line with Ivan Provorov in the future, which I think that's a pretty good duo right there. Because I don't think Ivan Provorov is a guy that you want to ship out.
That's somebody you keep.
I think Ristolainen is a guy you keep. Travis Sanheim is I think they need to do a retool, kind of like what the Eagles did. The Eagles retooled and made the playoffs against all odds. I mean, I don't think they need a full-on rebuild. I think they just need a retool. They have good pieces, like you said. Get rid of a couple older pieces. Get rid of JVR, dude. JVR can go. I mean, he's
still on the team. Like, honest question: why is JVR still on the team? His years of good production are behind him.
Because he's a goal scorer, and he did look a lot better last season than he has this season.
He's a former goal scorer.
He's either, if he doesn't get traded this season, then he's getting bought out before next season. You can quote me on that right now. He will not be on the team next season. Whether it's via trade or getting bought out, he will not be on the team next season. I'm trying to go up and down the lineup in my head, but with everyone going out with COVID and stuff, it's hard. Couturier is obviously still going to be on the team. He just signed a big deal. But yeah, I mean, like, I think Konechny is a good piece to keep. Provorov is a good piece to keep. Ristolainen's a good piece to keep. Man, I really don't like Ellis. I mean, he's showing that his injury issues are really pushing through right now, and that's an issue. But I mean, the Flyers barely have a skeleton of a team in front of the goalie right now. Like, that's the reason they're losing so much, is the fact that everyone is getting hit at once. Like, they have a skeleton of a team, and that's not an excuse. Everyone is going through that. Not saying that's an excuse, but I think people are trying to think worst case scenario already. Did you see what Ivan Provorov said about it was basically an extension of what Carter Hart said about the whole COVID asymptomatic things. Ivan Provorov also went at the NHL saying, you're willing to play through anything, any injury, any illness, and then here you get maybe a regular flu, not even, and then somebody tells you can't come back when you feel fine, especially when you're trying to go out there and help your team win and take pride in that. But if it's just a flu that has a 99% survival rate, then everyone should play, because when other teams play against us with the stomach flu, for some reason, they're not canceling games. So why are they letting us play or canceling other games now? Something's got to change, and hopefully it's going to change soon. Starting to see a lot of players come out against the NHL and their COVID rules.
Yeah, but I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're playing in the U.S. and Canada, and
the Canadian government, that's playing a huge factor.
Very different. So
I do agree with them though. Like, if you're feeling asymptomatic, these players are all vaccinated. I mean, that's the point of having them get vaccinated at the beginning of the season, was so that you didn't have to go through this. And that's there. You can see where teams are suffering now, because they keep on canceling games over it. And that's just making it harder for the players, because now they're going into super condensed situations and it's causing issues. So I would like to see something change there, but there's nothing you can really do there. But yeah, I mean, the Flyers are just going to have to, you're going to have to wait until the trade deadline to see what's going to happen, because there's nothing you can really look at. People want action now, but they don't have, the Flyers are at a point where they're too low to have any say in a trade, if that makes sense. So like, they can ask for something and another team can put up the price as much as they want, because they have the high ground. I mean, essentially they're like, oh, well, you want our players and you're obviously struggling to play, so why would we just give it to you for a bag of chips? And the trade deadline is where everything's going to come into play.
Yeah, it should be a very interesting trade deadline.
I think Chuck Fletcher ultimately has had basically any freedom that he wanted to do what he needs to. So, I mean, maybe he's the issue, honestly. He's had the freedom and he's had the development for the most part. I mean, it's just the pieces he's bringing in just aren't working.
Yeah. So maybe they just need to look at him, or maybe there's just a bunch of different factors that you need to look at, like coaching staff, your older players like Ryan Ellis not being able to maintain their health. So yeah, maybe like what you said, maybe a retool is the thing they need to do right now, because you probably shouldn't dive into a full rebuild yet.
Like you said, it's going to be an interesting trade deadline. There's nothing you can really look at up until you get to that point. And that's unfortunate, because I feel like there's a lot of losing coming in the Flyers' future.
Yeah, when just think a few years ago, it looked so bright.
That's sports for you. Well, I believe that's all you got, or I have.
That's all I got.
All right. So with that, we are going to end it there. You guys can now rate us on Apple and Spotify. So you can go rate us there. On Apple, you can leave reviews and leave stuff for us to questions, comments, whatever you guys want to see. You can follow us on Instagram at BL in the DC. You can DM us questions, comments. You can email us at blinthedc.com. And with that, I think that's everything we got. So we will see you guys next week.
Yeah.